Oh, it feels so good to be back. Welcome. I know it's been too long. I'm glad to be here. I hope you guys are glad that you tuned in. I hope you will be by the end of the first show. We're back, baby. Welcome to the LG Snapshot here on LeagueGaming.com. Have to tell you, the views and expressions of this show do not reflect those of LeagueGaming.com. Just myself and the people on the show. Let's talk about that. The people on the show right now. Let's jump right in before we talk about where we've been and where we're going. First and foremost, let's bring back someone, at least that we know. You may not love him, but I know you know him. Sev09, hashtag that right up guy. What's up, Sev?
Hey everyone, it's good to be back. You know, we're still looking for Eric. Eric, anyone seen that kid? I mean, Lake Erie Monsters might be playing, but he's nowhere to be found right now.
Nowhere.
So it is good to be back. Good to be back in the air. Good to be working with the media team. You know, there's been plenty of arguments and different threads and all sorts of fun times, but it's good to be back, at least providing stuff for the community.
Hey, you and me, Sev, at the end of the day, there's no love lost between us.
Oh, never has been.
That's all that matters. So we brought it back together for, let me make sure I stress this, the community, because that's what matters, right? At the end of the day, that's what matters. And who better than to be involved in the community than my very good pal, my CHL media liaison. I've been on his show. It's now time for him to come on mine. Powder P.
What's going on? I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you guys invited me in. I've heard a lot about the show, and now it's time for me to join the crew and show you guys what I can bring to the table.
I am so glad you, my friend, are here with us again. Eric was supposed to be here. I don't know where he is. You guys have a clue?
We definitely put his picture on the back of some milk cartons. We're circulating those around. You know, feel free to call into the show if you have an Eric sighting. So
I've called the police already, so hopefully they're on top of it.
Different ways you can follow us. We don't have our talk shoot client anymore because here at LG, we're upgraded. We get tools. We get YouTube Live, which is amazing. So you can chat with us different ways. Obviously in the LeagueGaming.com chat box. Do that right now. Chat along with us as we talk about some hard-hitting topics. No BS. No stat show for an hour. We got stuff to talk about. You can also chat with us on Twitter. We're on the Twitter. Hashtag LG Snapshot. Go there. And also watch the show live. And you can chat with us in the LeagueGaming.com YouTube chat box for the episode. And if you're also in the forums, we posted some threads. Go check that stuff out. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that good stuff. We want to hear from you. Stick around after. I'm not going to bite a line. I have to change it up, Sev. It's not called the overtime, because that's what Powder P does. We're going to call this the last shot. At the end of the snapshot, stick around. We go off the record. Bring your questions, comments, concerns. We'll talk about all that stuff at the end of the show. Anything you want to say.
So it's like we pulled the goalie and we're shooting for that last push at the end of the game.
That's it, man. So that's what we're doing at the end of the show. We used to call it the overtime, but since you're running that's fine. And we'll change it last minute. Call an audible. And that's what we got going on. So for those who don't know, I am F5 Penguin. We have Sev and Powder P. And Sev, talk a little bit about what the snapshot was back in the day.
Oh, back in the day, it was the only form of CHL media. It had plenty of different, topics that we went on. We had the epic Maxwell versus Laban round 1 before they loved each other, but I guess they hate each other again now. And there's a rumor floating around Laban might be taking AHL management next year, so we can definitely get another round of that going.
Good.
So we definitely let our opinions fly. We were, we get a lot of crap in the VHL about it, especially from hashtag work in progress dude over there. So I mean, I wanted to invite him to the show, but he had different things he was working on, so he couldn't be here tonight. Sadly,
he said he was coming soon, so I just assumed it was going to happen at some point.
Well, I wasn't quite sure what he was referring to, so
right. So if you don't know, we did this show we did 9 episodes. Ranged between 35 and 45 minutes, and then we did 2 2-hour shows, which was crazy. That was nuts, Sev.
Those were some long shows.
We did live coverage of the playoffs. We did live coverage of the last night of the season. We hope to bring you some of that again this season here at LG for the community. Now, for me, I told Seth, I said, I'm not going to do shows. I came on Powder's show. I said, Powder's doing a show. I'll just say hi on Powder's show. I can do that. He said, no, shut up. You're getting on the air. So here I am as media director. Look at this, Sev. I'm doing a show.
You are, finally.
I know it's crazy, right? The media director doesn't do shows. I guess I'm doing one. So that's a thing. Anyway, we have some stuff to talk about. And what better way to start the new era in LG with the Snapshot than by talking about some of the hard-hitting topics that are going around the league, starting with the ownership. We want to talk about the good and the bad tonight. We're going to go back and forth. We'll have Powda and Sev kind of chime in back and forth and think around the horn. We're changing the format a little bit. So let's talk ownership and LG, the good and the bad. A lot of people have said there's not too much change when we all came over to League Gaming. Everything kind of feels like some stuff from the past that we may not be happy with. Powder, your take on ownership and your thoughts with that as it pertains to LG.
Well, I've never played in the NHL, and I've played, I think, a grand total of 6 games in the AHL for the past 2 seasons. So my experience dealing with ownership is very, very limited. It seems like the selection process is done in a way that it may almost seem like a good old boys club where you get that members only jacket and you kind of feel out, who knows who and who's who of LG. But in all reality, the owners need to be the most important and influential members, just like they are in the NHL, AHL, and any other professional sports league. Where this is a sim league, you got to have those people that represent the league well. You can't have a bunch of Donald Sterlings running around, and you have to actually have people that are here for the right reasons and not for own personal glorification.
It does seem like a little bit of personal glorification, Sev. I know you can speak on that a little bit.
See, I come from a slightly different perspective on owners in the NHL. Right now, with the way that the community is and the way that the players act, you almost need that top tier player to take ownership. Or otherwise, we'll have issues with trade requests. I mean, look at New York Rangers. They're on their 3rd owner. Calgary Flames is on their 3rd or 4th owner. OD just had to step down, so now Dallas is in the process of getting another owner. And there's a lot of top tier players on Dallas this season, and they could easily just die. That team could die, and you could have Texas all of a sudden, who's in a great spot in the AHL right now, just get destroyed depending on who comes in there. And then everyone says, "Oh, I'll never touch the team. I'll never touch the team." But once call-ups happen, people don't like to lose, so they'll destroy an AHL team that by all rights has done nothing wrong. Iargos has put together a great team down there in Texas, and depending on who gets selected, it's a real big issue. Other than that, I mean, with the selection process, we were supposed to have last season the 30 greatest owners ever to grace, sports, and we had 10 owners quit between initial selections and on. There was some risky picks until the community changes to a way that they're willing to give some of these owners who know the community and know some gems. We won't ever have a truly competitive league. It's the best way that I can get on it.
Okay, so what's your vision, Sev, on a truly competitive league? What does that look like?
The only way to have the competitive league is to have 30 owners that actually want to be here, that are okay and aren't looking for that single season. And you have to have the players. It sucks because of being part of the PA for so long. Trade requests are broken as they are. You don't have to give any sort of reason. There's no legitimacy. All you have to do is say is, I don't want to be here, and you're assured to get traded. So until there's a whole culture change, we won't have that truly competitive league. There's going to be, your top 6 teams, and then you're going to have the middle of the pack, and you'll have a bunch that people just want trade requests off of all the time. Shout out to my boys in Philly. We're at the bottom right now, but we're trying to make our way up. We've dealt with trade requests, and we just keep plugging it in.
I think that goes back to what you said, player culture, right? I mean, it has to start somewhere. Obviously, it's not going to happen. I know I'm going to get slack for this. It doesn't really matter. The NHL is not where it's going to start. We all know that. It just isn't going to happen. It's like trying to convince your grandpa that Windows XP is just outdated. So it has to start somewhere. I think it has to start in the CHL. And now, Powder, you've been down there for a while. You're in it, and you've seen it from both sides now doing media. What's the culture like down there right now?
It's one of those, if your GM is bad, because we don't have owners down here, people don't want to play. They feel that they could do a better job themselves, so they immediately request a trade and get out of there. Right now we have 2 standout GMs, and one in each conference, or one in each league, the Q and in the W. But unless you play for those teams, you're most likely not going to win every game. And people aren't happy with that. What people are failing to recognize on the CHL level is in a game of any game whatsoever, there's an objective. And in the objective, someone has to win and someone has to lose. Nobody likes losing. Everyone wants to win it all. But somebody has to lose every game, and people cannot deal with losing very well in the CHL. I'm sure that goes in the other leagues as well. But down here, I feel that as soon as you take a bad loss, it's everybody wants to abandon ship and leave the captain there for it to sink.
So the culture, I guess that's not changed too much either. But I think it can be said in all leagues, there are some stars that kind of shine, but with the amount of toxicity, let's call it, from owner to player, something drastic has to change to kind of bell curve the awfulness, right?
Why not introduce, instead of having just owners, GMs, AGMs, why don't we have agents and player agents that can negotiate their treatment and their settlement? I know that's what the Players Association is, or maybe the players should go on strike for like in the NBA. That seemed to work for them very well.
Go on strike. I think we were in a forced strike, at least half of us, for a while, that we had no option around. And I don't think people settled too well for that.
But at the same time, people want to play competitive hockey. And as I think can all agree on, that LG is the premier place to play hockey. All the other leagues that exist, all the wannabes cannot even touch the talent that's even in the CHL.
I think you're right, Sev.
I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed, and it's only going to happen if the right people are in place in all the different leagues. Starting with, definitely the CHL. There's a lot of issues right now in the CHL where the actual GMs in the CHL, they have no power. They can't even make their own rules. They have no constitutional voting. It all comes from the NHL owners. There needs to be some sort of separation. They either just completely separate the CHL. I'm not saying allow no call-ups, but to separate it in a way that to give the GMs that power that the NHL owners have, as well as they have to re-look at the AHL and NHL and see what isn't working. We know there's a lot of things that are working, but you have to continuously fix the things that aren't. Otherwise, more issues pop up.
Yeah, you mentioned a separation, right? So it feels like coming over here to LG, which, again, for the record, none of us disagree that it isn't the greatest thing that could have happened for competitive sixes to a degree. But we've taken the first step on separation down in the CHL, like you mentioned. We've half separated. We just haven't fully broken off. It feels like we're California, right? There's a fault line, but we're not fully separated from the rest of the country yet. And it feels like that might actually set the catalyst for player change, culture change, if we get that complete separation.
I mean, there can definitely be that separation if we get that completely done, but we also have to make sure that we have a route for players to move up mid-season, because there will always be people that quit. Summer season is notorious for it. People who drop left and right out of every league. And now we're heading to Xbox One, so these people that are on terrible teams that don't plan on buying a One, they have no reason to stay around. So it's one of those seasons where it's going to be the anomaly. There's so many things happen at the same time, but we can only hope with Ron down in the CHL that he's trying to be as proactive as he can be to address these problems. We looked at them all when we were in the PA together, so there can only be that hope that things are going to get better. Obviously, with the expansion last year, it was terrible execution. There were just so many things wrong with last season, and I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I walked out the door. So,
yeah, well, you say walking out the door, and there's a lot of controversy around players walking out of their CHL team's doors, and you kind of led on to that. But let's go to Powder for a second. He's down there, and I'm glad because. Well, before we do that, you know what? I want to take a second. You mentioned Ron. And Seven I can at least attest, and I know Powder, you've had a couple of interactions with him maybe. Ron is a heck of a guy, and I can't think of a better person to be down there trying to not enact change, but to just stay on a righteous path for the CHL, right, Sev?
See, as much as I love Ron, I think he's a great guy. We're good friends. He's not been in the CHL for at least a calendar year that I can remember.
That's
and
true.
Before that. So we keep having these people in charge of the CHL that couldn't tell you really two shits about the CHL. They can tell you who the GMs are because they can look it up. They can tell you who some of the players are, but they don't know what happens there every year. And then with everything that happened last year, I decided not to do my normal, intentionally try to get to the CHL, and I got bid on by Philadelphia, and I'm up here losing games left and right. But I mean, there's nothing that can be done unless they actually take an active look at the CHL. I mean, Ozzy's trying to help out. We have all these different people trying to do what's best for the CHL, but they're not on the front lines. If you're not on the front line, you don't know what's actually happening.
Fair enough. We have someone on the front line. We have Powder P doing media like 8 times a week. I don't know what you're doing, man. I don't know if you sleep, if you don't sleep. I don't care. But you're doing it, and I love you for it. We have 2 topics in the CHL that we're going to talk about. Let's jump into the first one, Powder.
All right, the first one. We obviously everybody that's been successful in the CHL knows where this is going. We're talking call-ups. Some teams are getting destroyed by call-ups. Some people are refusing call-ups. Some people don't even know what a call-up is because they don't talk to their GM. There needs to be some kind of legislation within the Constitution that justifies when a call-up can occur, how a call-up can occur. And I know there are things in there about it, but there's nothing that says a player has to go or can't go. My argument on that has always been you should always strive to play at the best level possible, so you should take the call-up and you shouldn't have a choice. If you're in the CHL and the Providence Bruins call you, you're not going to be like, well, I don't feel like playing there. And this is supposed to represent simulation hockey in a sense of we are NHL or aspiring NHL Stanley Cup winners. However, some teams decide that they're going to tell their players, hey, you can stay down here. Oh, well, what do I do if they ask me why I can't play? Well, I have a bedtime, or I have homework, or I have to go to bed and they can't make game times. I know when you sign up for the LG, I've walked so many players through this that you have to click on your times, and there's no boxes for the 8:30, 9:30 games. It's always for the 10 and 11 o'clock time slots. And you know what you're getting into when you sign up for. If you came here to play on the CHL level, you're not here to play sim hockey. You're here to play club that carries stats into a website that you can talk, as opposed to playing club with your friends where you can trust those EA Sports leaderboards that are always very, very accurate, and they're here for the wrong reason. And I think that's the problem we have right now is we have too many players in the league as a whole that are not here to play sim hockey. They're here to play hockey with their buddies, which I understand video games are supposed to be fun, but this is a sim hockey league to play sixes.
You know, it blew my mind when I first joined the VHL because of my brother. He said, our club fell apart back in NHL 11, and he's like, hey, you should sign up. I know you haven't been playing online. You got enough people that play, but you don't want to play with them because, whatever, they have their own clubs or whatever the case may be. I'm like, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. So I've stayed in the CHL. I purposely try to keep myself down there because I thought it was really awesome to kind of grow it. But when I got called up, I thought it was pretty cool too. It didn't, for me, it wasn't the friends thing because, again, like you said, it's silly to assume a competitive league would cater to a friendship unless you're a GM bid on a no-name person combo type thing. That would be the exception. The only exception to the rule I can come up with is legit time scheduling things. Like if you have work at 3 a.m. or something and you can only play your 8:30 games or whatever time it may be. But for every other reason, I think I agree with you, right? So you may not necessarily want to make it to the big show, but if you got to step up and help out your team, then you got to help out the next level above you that called you up. On that same face, though, that is kind of the separation issue we're running into, right? So we go back to what we said earlier, and you have this weird in-between, it's complicated Facebook status relationship with the CHL, like you're affiliated, but you're not. Before, you at least had like a team you went to. So, Hershey went up, and people were underneath Hershey that moved into Hershey, and everyone had a structure. But now, teams are all over the place. And Sev, I know you can relate to all of that.
Yeah, so last season we lost one about 30 minutes after bidding finalized. We lost ECG Monster last season. And then before I left in week 2, we'd already lost 17 or 18 players in total from call-ups. So we also say that we're a simulation league. We're trying to emulate the CHL, NHL, AHL. In the real CHL, there's not call-ups this consistent time because someone in the AHL is underperforming. So we have to look at it as we're getting as close to simulation as possible, but at the same time, we're not doing things the same way. There's also, there's an age limit in the CHL. There's all these different things that we got to look at, as well as, like you were talking about in terms of players telling them that they're, tell their AHL they're bedtime, this, that, and the other. That actually caused a rather big fight between myself, Maxwell, and Jeff. They thought that I was telling players not to play for them because they were bad or this, that, and the other. And that wasn't happening. One of our goalies last year, EST, he was good enough to play up. The fact of the matter is he was 16 years old. He played hockey at 5:30 in the morning. He couldn't even really play our later games, let alone getting into the NHL, AHL where 10:30, 11 o'clock games. He couldn't make them. And that just caused a huge rift because there was a number of my players that did not want to get called up. They were happy where they were, and it was harder for them to make games at a later time. And that's the difference between the CHL. So there needs to be some leeway for people that want to stay in the CHL, but it almost needs to happen before your rights get assigned. So it's not that you're getting called up to a shitty team. There needs to be some protection for players that can only play those actual slots, but at the same time, there still needs to be that stream that goes up because the top talent should move up. But at the same point, you want to give players some sort of rights, and it's a sticky situation that no matter what, someone is always going to be mad at.
I had an epiphany of an idea. Let me bounce this off of you guys. I thought about this when reading over the show notes for the past week, thinking about something that would be so polar away from what people are thinking is the norm that it might actually work. If we want to emulate simulation hockey, and again, I'm all for that. I think it's great. I think getting as close to that as possible within reason because it's a game and we don't have money on the line here. Here's what I got. So you said age limit, right? There's always an age limit in the CHL. You can play till, 18, and then you can't play in the CHL anymore.
Correct.
So why not have it 2 seasons? You can spend 2 seasons in the CHL. Now, hear me out. We have 3,000 people playing. Obviously, there's not that many at the end of the season. People quit. Let's just call it 2,500, just to say 500 people quit. So we have 2,500 people. How many people is it to fill NHL and AHL? It was 1,100, I believe, was the number, 532 per league. I think that was the number. Don't quote me on that.
540 at least.
540? Okay, so we got 1,080. So out of that 2,500, there's however many in the training camp that play for 2 seasons. 2 seasons in the CHL. After that, it's either you get drafted or bid on in the AHL or you don't play. You're just a training camp guy. You're done. You're a training camp guy in the AHL. There's no training camp in the CHL. Instead, it's just a flood of players. It's just whoever can play. Have games. If you got to have 2 games, have 2 games. You can make it work logistically. The systems we have in place are there. I don't want to stretch into how logistically to get the CHL to work that way, but if you make it 2 seasons and then you move up to the AHL level, and then it's a fight between the AHL and the NHL, there is the fight. The fight is at the AHL level where you're assigned to a specific NHL team, and if you're not good enough, if you can't do whatever it is that you need to do, then guess what, dude? You're not playing. We're not 5-year-old soccer. We're not everybody gets a trophy. We're not good job for eating the crayons. None of that. Your thoughts. Powder first, because we haven't heard from you in a while.
I love the idea, and as you said that, my brain was going a mile a minute. I know, that fast. Basically, essentially what you're going to do is put somebody's life here in the LG as an age. So when you first come in, you're, let's say, 14. When you come into 14, that's your gamer life age, I guess, and you now play in the CHL until you're 18. So you technically get 4 seasons or 4 years.
Yeah.
But the problem is you don't make room at the top, because are you going to tell somebody really in 15 years, 20 years, if you want to be a Yami or Yager, you can't play anymore, you've played too long? That would be so detrimental for future. But right now, that idea sounds fantastic.
There is that. But to that, I would say people quit all the time at the top level. That's why there's call-ups.
And I think, but that would also make the because you always hear stories of which league is actually better talent-wise, AHL or NHL. Never,
NHL.
Fine, that's your opinion. However,
no, it's been proven. No offense to the AHL guys. The AHL is a great league to play in, but it's just how it is.
Skip Bayless response, and I love it.
Regardless, it's been a discussion. It's not regardless if it's been proven or not. It's still been a discussion and a key point. And I think it would actually beef up the NHL and push more of the talent from that is in the AHL up higher, because I'm sure there are guys on NHL rosters that probably shouldn't be there. Is that a correct statement?
Oh yeah. I've said that at during bidding. I called out, 12 or 13 players that shouldn't have even been on an NHL roster for $500K, let alone for free.
Which brings us back to the point that you're not here to play with friends. And if the GMs are the first, GMs, owners, and management are the first ones that need to realize that, because I'm sure there is a GM out there that has or an owner or whatever that said, hey man, you just sign up. I'll hook you up and get you on my NHL team. That way you don't have to play down in the CHL or the AHL. And so I'm sure there are players out there like that you probably question every day why that person is playing in NHL games. Yet we have a superstar that shouldn't even be playing in the CHL because he is better than most or all in the CHL. And there's no room opening up at the top for the actual talent. And there's no way to, we don't have 1,000 video cameras on all these players during every game to sit there and have analysts pick it apart like they would in real life.
Not yet, right?
Not yet, but with that Xbox One, you might. And until we can mimic every aspect of it, I don't think we can ever get to a true life balanced league, three-tier league.
Sev?
See, I don't fully agree with people just sitting and not playing. That's the one thing that the league has been trying to get away, because all you're doing is you're pushing people away, and you're going to create, eventually, whether you want to say it's going to be a less skilled or not, you're going to push people to a different league. Someone's buddy goes, someone has 2 friends in the league, they both are going to sit in AHL training camps, and they're not going to play at all. They go to a new league, then if it's one of the top players, he might go with them. You have that same thing that happened in the VHL. Once the key individuals leave and they came here, it was just, a complete effect. Everyone followed. So you always have to keep people playing. I mean, there is obviously the issue that people will fall from the AHL to the CHL based on skill, and the better GMs in the AHL, they find the better CHL players and they move them up. Not everyone. There is always going to be the guys that pick up all their friends, and guess what happens to them? They're the guys that don't win. So
yeah,
if they really are going to destroy, want to get a whole team of their buddies and want to be the punching bag for every other team, then I say let them. If you want to lose every game, then go ahead and do that. There's always going to be exceptions. When Fearless was together in Chicago in the VHL, it was, Buddy a club, and, they dominated. But it doesn't happen all the time. So, there's different things that we have to look at from a league standpoint in either breaking it off or doing another tier or whatever we're going to do to move players around. It's just there has to be some sort of general discussion between everyone, not just staff, and figure out what's best for the league as a whole and go from there.
What's best for business, and it definitely isn't having 25 people on a training camp roster in the CHL. Let's table it here. Let's quickly change gears to another CHL topic. Obviously, it's one of the hot topics right before the bid happened for the CHL is we decided somebody, I won't mention names, some GM in the CHL decided it was a brilliant idea to have a CHL draft. Is this good for the league or is it bad for the league? Powda?
I honestly thought the draft was an awesome idea, an awesome thought, probably one of the cooler things I've been involved with in LG as a CHLer. However, it was just poorly planned. The timing was just awful. Some GMs just didn't care. Some of the more experienced GMs had a ridiculous, unfair advantage in that, and then it showed us that there's a lot of potential in a draft, because I can speak from my Twitter account, and you guys can all go check it out. It legit was blowing up for that 9 hours that ended somewhere around, I think, 3 a.m. or 3 or 4, and it was awesome because people were excited to be part of an organization. They didn't even played a game yet, but the hype for the season was awesome, and everything was just getting really, really crazy. It gave us a lot of talking points down on the CHL, good discussions, bad discussions, but for the most part, the GMs and the players that didn't get bid on seemed to enjoy it, especially the ones that got picked. Obviously, some other thoughts from the guys that still went undrafted, but that's the nature of the beast. What I feel would be a better alternative would be take away the money on the salaries and say we're going to do a straight up draft. Every GM that comes in, you'll submit your bidding board to whatever person that is in charge of the draft, and then figure out a way. I'm sure we have a way to computerize every list of name because it's been done before, and then based off like a fantasy cheat sheet, it basically takes your next best available player on the board. And I know bid strategies change as people are drafted, but that's the best part of it is you still have time to get back in there. You just put like a 5-minute thing on it and say, now you have 5 minutes between each pick, and it's going to go. If you don't get in there to change anything, it takes that next pick, and it goes for the entire week from Sunday to Saturday. And you can edit it at any time if you're the GM or AGM, and it takes the crazy contracts. So when you bid up your buddy who's awesome at this game, has all the crazy moves that he knows can beat all the CHLers, his salary doesn't get so outrageous just to keep him down to avoid the big salary hit on the AHL, which gets back to the whole sim gaming topic where contract maximums.
Sev, you posted back in the day, that's how I refer to it, you posted a pretty lengthy thing on the parity of the salary cap, salary maximum, salary bids from CHL to AHL to NHL, and I believe you and Topher went back and forth for a while on that, not in like an argumentative way, but just like conversational wise. I know you have a lot to say on this topic.
Oh yeah, it was definitely something, and even when VHL came over here, it was another conversation that was had again in restructuring all the salary caps for all the leagues, and I sent the entire thing I had been working up beforehand, before the VHL officially came over. I sent it all to Brody and let him read it, let him read the stuff about the change in the length of the schedules. But the draft in itself, which is the main topic that we're talking about here, it's a great idea. It's something cool for the CHL, but like everything that they do last minute in either league, it was handled terribly. 10 minutes a pick. They did 3 or 5 rounds, and it lasted 9 hours, and they had to be there the entire time. It was not handled properly. And on top of it, the training camps didn't get assigned for over a week. So there was forfeits in the preseason. People couldn't test out training camp players in preseason. There was a lot of things that needs to be fixed for next season. Just going off what Powder just said, let's do a whole long draft. Well, if you do a 5 minutes, that's still a 56.7 hour process just to complete the first wave, just to build the teams. That's over 56 hours, which means, you said that people can edit at any time, but if your pick comes up at 3:00 in the morning, you go to work. How are you going to wake up at 3:00 in the morning to hit your 5 or 10 minute window, whatever you want it to make it be?
There's an app for that.
There's a lot of there's an app for that, of course, but there's a lot of issues with that. People having to wake up or sleep in shifts, and we have to realize this is still a hobby for people. So the bidding process is a great thing to work, but we have to structure the overall salary caps so that call-ups they flow without hurting teams, and the same as when someone gets sent down. So that's something that has to be looked at by the league in general, and it's a whole creating parity between the CHL and AHL, and then the AHL and the NHL, so that those top tier players, even if they're at the height of their current salary caps, can move up. That is something that we don't have right now, especially with the CHL and AHL caps being identical. So someone like a Breck Easy, he has to get at least one shot at it on a show, because otherwise he'll be posting in all of our topics for the next week. He can't move up because his salary is so high. Even if he was the best player available, which I don't think he is the best player in the CHL, and that's from someone who traded him because he caused shit in the locker room last year. So there's definitely things that have to change, but we can talk about it. We could do a whole show on it. It doesn't mean that people are going to listen.
That's true. People might not listen. People also don't listen to the rules, right? So
rules.
Let's talk about some rule things. Second tag bans. Sev, I'll ask you first. Did this go the way you expected it to go? And did it go how it should have gone?
Most of the guys that got banned for second tags are actually people that I like in the league, which kind of sucked for me. I lost some people that I could have conversations with. But here's the thing: we had these big threads. Brody posted these huge threads. And we're gonna rid the league of second tags and this, that, and the other. And he's like, I'm gonna post information starting today. And 2 people got banned, and then 1 other person got banned. And I was like, where's the rest? We know there's second tags in the NHL. There's more in the AHL. There's definitely second tags in the CHL. Where are the rest of these bans? They got 3 out. Everyone was like, yeah. And then it just, it went off to the wayside, and now it looks like we're going to get no more second tag bans. Like, if you start something, finish something. You can't just ban a select group of people and not get everyone else that are breaking that same rule.
Powder?
I think first of all, there are a lot of players out there, to include myself, who don't fully understand what's going on with second tag bans. Go ahead and just elaborate just a little bit on that, so some of these newer players and myself can kind of understand what is actually going on with second tags.
Sev, I'll let you take that.
All right, so second tags were, if I was to create another Xbox Live tag, get it into the league, you're only allowed to play on 1 tag. You can only have 1 account to play in the league. So if I was to make a tag called F6 Penguin and get him in the CHL and play at it and tell my friends, hey, this is my second tag. You can get me in the AHL for nothing. No one knows who I am. Obviously for me, it's not as big an issue if I was to do it, but if you have one, high talented NHL guy goes and all of a sudden, sneaks onto an AHL team, it can seriously threaten the parity in the league.
Yeah. So the question is, for the first thing is, obviously nobody thinks, anyone with a sense on them thinks that this is a bad thing. Second tag should not exist. You should not be just bending the rules like that, breaking the rules like that. It should not happen. We all agree with that. But how do we go about it? And like you said, Sev, we saw like 4 people get hung in the public square, and then did more people get shot behind the door, or did we just leave it alone? Like, I wasn't sure where we went after that, right?
I don't think anyone's sure what happened, unless you're your staff and you're in the loop. But they said they were going to make this stuff public, and publicly nothing else has happened.
This is where I named the show "Can We Get Some Decorum Here?" Yes, I took a line from Bad News Barrett, but I have said it since I entered the league and was confused in a 5-hour conversation I had with the former site owner. Where is the transparency? If this is an enjoyable, fun, recreational thing that, yes, the staff is spending 40 or 50 hours on a week sometimes, not saying Tris, I know he's doing like 90 hours a week sometimes. I'm saying league staff. They're putting in so many hours. If there's that much hours invested and time invested, shouldn't we have a right to the entire book? And I say the book as in the record book, not in stats, but in the things you've done. What have you done today? What are you doing tomorrow? What have you done yesterday? Can we look that up, and can we see what actually is happening behind that weird steel curtain that seems to be in front of most of us, but not all of us, in front of some of us who are cool, but not others. Like, this is the cool lunch table, and you can kind of see it, but don't you ask who sits here, because we won't tell you, and we might punch you in the eye and ban you for life. That's what it feels like, and it's frustrating. Even me, I am not in the loop. Let me make sure I tell everyone. I'm not in the loop. I don't get these memos. Ever. And I feel like we should have more transparency.
I haven't come from the other side to hear. I mean, the transparency may have slightly improved, but it's not. There's no real transparency. Sorry. Not the popular opinion, but it is what it is.
No, and in the sense, what needs to happen is just like, I mean, I'm not sure not everybody agrees with the United States government, but you need 3 branches. We claim to in the Constitution, but we need some neutral. We need, neutral people on the site that have the ability to access this stuff. So when a records check is requested, it can be done in a fashion that works. We can't just, obviously we don't want to just start throwing stuff around, because we don't want people to their reputation in the league. I mean, yes, we want these people out. We want cheaters gone, this, that, the other thing. But if a player has truly fixed what they've done wrong because somebody else told them to do it and they were under the peer pressure influence because they thought it was okay, because there are a lot of people out here who don't read the forums, who don't check the rule books, who don't understand what they can and cannot do because they're ill-informed and they came in here to play because somebody told them they'd be good here. So what needs to happen is we need to have a neutral group of people, or a staff, I don't want to call it a staff, but a team of, if you will, mercenaries that are coming in to keep fairness in the league, stay anonymous, have that anonymous LG account, if you will, that can answer questions that people have about certain things and really want to know. But I don't think it necessarily needs to be just public knowledge, because other people are using it for their own advantage later on to say, oh, well, this person, this GM had a second tag player on his team and he knew about it, and didn't get banned. We better, check, because we can't start, a witch hunt over, who did what in the past either.
That's true, but here's the thing. We do have 3 branches. We have the executive. We kind of do. Okay, so
we don't.
Hold on. We have a group of people, in theory, on paper, we have 3 groups of people that make decisions, that do things. We have an executive branch, we have a legislative branch, and we have a judicial branch. That exists. But these situations are not handled as they should be through the checks and balances process on a neutral playing field against a written book of circumstances that are followed to the T and then used as precedent for the next issue. That's the problem.
We don't use precedent at all in this.
We don't, and that's I agree with you.
There's too many rules that, it's a suspension for Powder P, it's a game for F5, and it's a site ban for Sev. We all did the same things, but the rulings are completely different. It could be even just not an infraction for one guy, and it's a complete infraction for the other. I tried to blacklist an active player. They told me he was active. I waived him. Then they suspended me for a game for waiving an active player. That happened legitimately in a 10-hour period. So the fact of the matter is that when it comes down to it, we have 2 branches. You have the commissioners who select the bogs, and the bogs will do what the commissioners tell them to. I'm sorry, it's happened since day one. I think the only person ever to really straight up argue from a box standpoint, was probably Sager, and he wasn't well liked here, and that's one of the reasons. And then you have the PA, which, in all due honesty, compared to when me and Ron were there, they don't have as much power. I was on the commissioners. I pissed off. Hell, that's one of the reasons Land doesn't like me. I was sitting there and I would argue points in their threads to the point where they were saying I couldn't go in their office anymore. So we definitely need that real parity to protect everything, and we're not going to get it unless there's a major overhaul. And Laban, just one more shout out to Laban, who keeps typing in the chat.
Isn't that like in real life though? Isn't this exactly mimicking real life government policies? Without going too much into it, it kind of feels the same way, right?
Scandal everywhere. You never know what's going on, and that's just the way it's going to be. At the end of the time, we're not trying to spark any kind of a revolution here. We're not trying to overthrow the government or nothing.
You guys might not be,
but at the same time, some changes that could be put into place that could be put out on a public forum for everybody to have a kind of a say so to mimic that real life feel. It would just make things so much smoother and make this place a whole lot more fun to play. No N-bombs, no F-bombs would be coming out in the chat box. I mean, yeah, you'll still get your chirps, but it doesn't need to be as hostile as it has been getting lately.
It's too toxic. It's too hostile. You are exactly right. And all we're asking for is a little bit of decorum, a little bit of transparency, and it would probably make everyone's job easier. Real quick, you guys are listening to LG Snapshot episode 1. Can we have some decorum here on LeagueGaming.com? I'm F5 Penguin alongside Powder P and Sev09, bringing some aspects from all the leagues, every league, every week. You're only going to find that here on the LG Snapshot. We have 2 more topics before we kind of wrap things up with a free-for-all at the end. Stick around for that. Hashtag LG Snapshot over on Twitter. Follow us along at the different threads in the chat box that we've created over on LeagueGaming.com. Now let's jump real quick to something you mentioned before, Sev, the step up. The NHL topic from you. You, my friend, made a pretty big jump from the CHL to the NHL. Obviously, by choice, you had that option. For me, I tried out and missed a defender spot by literally 2 guys. 2 people went ahead of me, and had they not have been bid on or gone, I was told from a couple of GMs that I was a 4th line NHL guy, which it's a slap in the face or an honor, I'm not really sure, but I'm loving my time in the AHL. The difference between the minors and the show, Sev.
The jump is actually a lot more than people understand, and the reason I wanted to hit on this was, sitting on the site, if anyone goes into the CHL forums, there's all sorts of threads about how these kids are the second coming of Christ, and it's absolutely insane, the egos on some of these kids in the CHL, and you're coming in at the bottom, and yes, you might not be known, and that's why you're in the CHL. You're gonna jump up. You have, I didn't want to give him a shout out, but you have Nuke Freeman or whatever his name is. He moved up to the AHL. He's probably the most vocal player we've seen in the CHL in a very long time. Talking about how great he was, and he went 2-1. He couldn't even win all his games. He's supposed to be this immense NHL talent, and he's losing games in the CHL, and you have all these people that think that I score 3 points per game in the CHL, and I'm gonna be able to do it. Well, what happens is your best defenders. We have a shortage of defenders. We have a shortage of good goalies in these leagues. So your best defenders are going in the NHL. So as the farther down you go, is the easier it is to score goals. You have to step your talent up. There's cycling. There's lines in the NHL that completely crap all over other lines in the NHL.
Yeah.
That's just how this goes.
Yeah.
So you might be on a good team in a good spot in the CHL, and you think you can hang with anyone else, and there's videos of 6 random NHL players going against an all-star selected CHL line and losing like 10-0. It happens all the time where these people don't understand. Until you play against the best of the best, you're not going to understand that there is a big difference. It's not saying you can't handle it, but it's saying that you need to go walk into this as knowing that, hey, you were top dog in the AHL. You're at the bottom when you start in the NHL. You're going to be on a 3rd line. You're going to get on that suicide line and be thrown out there against lines that are better than you, and you're either going to handle it well, or you're going to show that you're not ready for it, and you're going to get sent back down.
No, I agree with you about 75% of the way, and I say that 75%. I think it's exactly what we talked about back in the day, where 75% of the NHL guys are top, and 25% of the AHL guys could probably be in the NHL, but aren't because of a 25% of people in the NHL who shouldn't be there. And that can be swapped, and then you'd have a clear-cut difference, because last season, or 2 seasons ago, let's say, I signed up real late to to LG, thanks to you, Sev, and I got thrown my first ever game. I was in the CHL. I got called all the way up to the NHL to play in a playoff game with the Anaheim Ducks, and we won 2-1. And I'm sitting there in front of PHJ. Love the guy. Sitting in front of him, playing for him as goalie. He's lagging. We win 2-1. And I'm sitting there going, if this is the talent of some of the top teams in this league, I'm going to have an easy time over here. And I'm not very... We all know. Penguin is only worth $4.25 million because of the mouth that he has behind this microphone. Let's just be honest. So, for me, I was like, man, I can do this. This is good. I can hang. And then not getting the spot kind of rubbed me the wrong way just a little bit. I was a little bit disappointed. But I feel like the top 2 lines in the NHL are definitely superior above the top 2 lines in the AHL, but that third line NHLer might not suffice so well against a top tier AHL guy.
It also depends on the team and how deep that team is.
That's true.
You're going to have people that spend more money on the top 2 lines knowing they can throw a bunch of 500K guys no one else is going to bid on just to take losses all season long. They'll make the playoffs and they just have to have their top 2 lines win. So there's a bunch of different in that. And in your instance of going to LG, coming over to LG, going up to the NHL before the merger.
Yeah.
Most of the NHLers from the VHL were in the CHL that season. That was the the St. John Sea Dogs, Oshawa Generals, Game 7, the brothers dominating all and doing it while having Dingo on their back. So I mean, it was a very different league structure that year. It was one of the deepest CHL in terms of raw talent that will ever happen, just because of all the proven NHL players that were there.
That's true. Powder, how's it looking like down there? Are you getting that second coming of Christ down in the CHL?
Well, I wouldn't say the second coming of Christ now that we've talked politics and religion here on the show.
Had to on the first show.
Hopefully we can talk conspiracy. Oh, we kind of have. Anyways, I can't speak for everybody else when it comes to calling up, but I know from a personal perspective, I'm doing what I have to do, even though I have some friends in this league, what I have to do to get mine, essentially. I would love to be the best NHL defenseman there is. I don't just play the game as a hobby. I think I take it a little bit too seriously at times. I try to improve my game by watching, streams of some of the better players out there and see what they do that I don't do. I try to improve it, but I can also say I come from a CHL game and then I go into an AHL game. On the CHL, my teammates will let you know I'm very vocal on the ice. I kind of take over the ship and kind of direct the flow of the game, unless I'm on my severable Raptor line, which is probably the best line in the CHL, by the way. I just control the flow, but when I get into that AHL game, which is the next level for me, I'm white-knuckling my controller. At F5, I played 1 game with you this season, and I was doing everything I could in my power not to screw up. That's all I cared about, was if I just don't screw up, we can win. I know that, and that's how I felt, and if I can show that I won't screw up, that wasn't, and that's not my game. My game is a much more aggressive and a much more on-ice presence, not just what you see on the ice, but the way I communicate with my teammates. I'm very vocal. But in the AHL, it's just don't screw up, keep my head down, don't let the GM get mad at me, where I never get called up again and get another chance at a game.
That's it. I wish more people had that same mentality you had, though, because I agree with Sev, at least for the wingers, man. I see so many CHL wingers when I was down there, too, going, oh, man, I'm so much better than all these guys. I'm like, dude, just bide your time, get better, you'll get up there, and if you're worth it, you'll be there. You'll be at least at the second level. But yeah, there's definitely a parity in the talent for the show, especially now that we have some top guys coming over for the Pro Series or coming over for whatever reason. They're here now, and we're seeing some positions being filled that should have been filled last season, like at that NHL level, that third line level. I think that's starting to fill up with talent, and I think that's better for the league. But what else we got going on? Okay, so you gave me a topic that you wrote in here, Sev, in the show notes, and I guess we'll talk about it a little bit. It's so weird to me. I think you are at fault for creating this. I blame you completely.
Of course, it's my fault.
I know exactly what topic we are.
I think
on.
it is.
This is awesome.
I think it is your fault.
It's my favorite topic too.
The media wars. What the freak is this nonsense? Okay.
It's actually Powder's fault. No, let's be honest. It's completely Powder's fault.
Because
he launched his live show. He launched his live show at the same time as the LGCHL radio.
That's never happened before. It wasn't like the Snapshot was out and then AHL Insider did theirs. Like, come on.
Yeah, but we did different times. We were live, they weren't.
We were live and they posted theirs at the same time. They did their first live one at the same time. I made a comment about it jokingly and they took it too seriously. Like, whatever. Like, okay, so the seemingly war between official and unofficial. Let me take 2 minutes to touch upon what I'm trying to do as media director for LG. Because this is what I do for a living. Oh, let me preface by saying I'm not rattled. Don't be an idiot and post that because that just makes you look stupid. This is
rattled.
This is don't start that again. The reviewers on Talk Show used to do that all the time. It was funny.
All right, here we go. Starting a Twitter trend right now.
Yes.
F5 rattled.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hashtag LG Snapshot. Just tag that and we're good. I do this professionally. 7 years, 360 episodes, over 50 different live events. This is what I do. So I took my talent to South Beach. I said, Tris, well, I guess North Beach, Toronto. I said, Tris, I'm going to help you out here. I'm going to bring in some people. We're going to put some content together, have some great ideas. Let's grow the league. New media is what I do. YouTube, Twitch, live streaming, podcasting. It's all what I do. Let me grab the guys that are already doing stuff. Let's post some things. And then we see all these people using things that aren't really the best quality, and people actually commenting on, oh, well, this sucks. I can't stream this. I can't view that. I have to have an account for this. Well, the quality is not good here. Or lots of problems. Okay, let's bring it all together. Let's centralize everything, right? And I'm not talking about what you did last. Sev, you had your reasons for last season. I'm talking about this season. This season. So I said this season we need to incentivize. Tristan Brody said, okay, we're not going to rule on site issues as long as, or if you mess up, if you say something in media that people don't like, we're not going to take action against you, but only if Penguin can put together a document that can hold that to the fire based on his views and values and goals and morals and things. Ethic things you shouldn't say, like homosexual slurs and those type of things that make you look stupid. I said, okay, we can do that. So, if you became an LG official person, a media guy, a person doing media for the league, then I'll cover you. Follow those small, simple rules. Like, there's 4 things you can't do. And I'll cover your back. No holds barred. Do what you want to do. I got your back. Because we saw some issues last season where people had action taken on them for things they wrote or things they said. I thought that was wrong. As long as you follow the guidelines, we can protect you. That's all I was trying to do. That's it. The unofficial media, to me, doesn't want to work with us for whatever reason. We've stretched our neck out, and that's fine. If you want to put out media, great. If you want to do it unofficially, fine. Just know I can't protect you. I want you to come over and work with me because I want to grow this YouTube channel. I want to grow the written content to have an RSS feed that I can take and move somewhere. I want to bring in some really important, cool things and some tools to the league to grow the league. Let me make sure I mention this. I've not once mentioned my company, my network, my shows, my things that I do, my professions, my conventions I cover. None of that in any show that I've done. Ever. And I go to some other places and they're doing that same thing. They're not trying to grow the league. They're trying to use the league as a platform for what they want to do to grow themselves. And it makes me feel like all that's doing is you're being selfish. And I don't think that's good for something that we're supposed to do for fun, that we're supposed to do together. I like this stuff. This is what I love to do. And I want people who want to create to come to me and go, look, this is what I want to do. And I can go, look, here's everything you need to do that. Have fun. Go do it. Don't worry about anything. Just create what you want to create. I'll promote it. I'll support it. The league is behind it 100%, and we can have some good times. If you're going to go do something on another channel, that's cool too. But just know, like, especially from some of the comments I've heard directly from some people, all they're doing it for is to grow their own thing. And to me, that's not right. Yes, there's other leagues out there. And yes, if you do things for other leagues too, that's fine. But it's just like that. Like, Apple doesn't recognize Microsoft. Sony doesn't recognize Nintendo. They know they're there, but they're not going to talk about them. I'm not going to talk about other leagues that are in existence, especially not 10 minutes after the show just got off the air. I'm not going to do these things. So at the end of the day, all I'm saying is there's no war. I just want to work with everyone, and I want everyone to work together to grow the league, to make this, honestly, the best place to play. I wouldn't waste so much time, and neither would a lot of the other guys, GMs, site staff, etc., if they didn't care about this league, not the other leagues.
For me, this has been a very sore subject, but everything F5 said, I will testify to, because as a member of the CHL media crew from last season, I saw the deficiencies. I formulated a well-written post once F5 kind of introduced himself to me, and I let him know that I would like to take the CHL media into a direction of basically a funnel. This way, it does everything F5 was looking for on this site, to put everything in one spot. So now F5 doesn't have 60 people messaging him about the power rankings for the CHL. No, he now has one person from the CHL he speaks with on a level of, I have a question about this, because F5 will probably tell you I have picked his brain probably more often. I probably talked to him on Skype more this month than I have with anybody ever.
It sounds right.
And and it's been good, because I've been learning a lot, because this is a hobby for me. This isn't a profession. It's a hobby that I just like doing, that I watched a couple YouTube videos maybe 4 or 5 years ago about NHL 09, and I thought it was so cool that this guy was putting all his content out there, and I said I would love to do that someday. And then when I came here, I saw that there was an opportunity to do it, and I found the best way to get my content out there. As far as this season's media war, I wouldn't call it a war. And if you want to say that I scheduled my show at the same time, first of all, my show was planned well in advance. I just hadn't announced it on the site. My co-host, J-Rod is awesome, knew about it.
That is true. That is true.
And the reason why the show's format changed, and I spoke to F5 about this a while back, was when he was teaching me something, he showed me about this whole live hangout thing. And so last year I spent 2 or 3 hours of, if not more, editing every week on a show after recording for an hour. So there we got 4 hours. And then I had to sit there and wait for YouTube to upload my video for 18 hours because I made an hour-long show instead of a 10-minute long show. So I had to wait for all of this to upload, and it wouldn't come out until Tuesday, Wednesday. And it would be midweek, and a lot of the content was irrelevant at this point. So it was really tough to put out a show that was, that was providing up-to-date information. And then the live idea came out when I read we were talking about media in one of the media forums about how, why not just do a live show, and it's just out there right there and then. And I don't know who wrote it. I don't know if it was F5. I don't know if it was I don't know who said it. However, light bulb went off, and I said, wow, we can go live. So the guys that I had spoke to about doing the show, they knew we were going for Sundays as a release, because it's the most relevant time to have a show come out, because it's right before the week starts, and nothing can really change in the 20 minutes before the the week starts. So what I did was we went live, and we said 7:30. I apologize that I didn't put it into the forums earlier enough. The only reason I didn't was because I didn't have all the information I needed yet from F5 that day, which the day of, me and him did probably 3 or 4 hours of testing.
Yeah, lots of hours.
It was just ridiculous trying to figure out how to get it to work. And I didn't want to promise any show before I knew I had it working. Once I had it working, I posted it up. I apologize if it's at the same time your show is on. I hope it's a good one. I won't be there to listen because I will be doing mine.
Best part is both of these shows are up for later. You don't have to listen or watch them live. Look at that.
Yes. Bocasmo, the GM from Kamloops, he tells me every time he wishes he could watch live. I just tell him to plan his nights better. But, yep, he watches them later on, and I always get comments from him like 2-3 days later.
Sev,
What's up?
what's your thoughts on this? You starting the media war, that whole thing.
Well, let's be honest. I started the media work because I was forced out. I was the media director prior to the merge, and then I was willing to step down to have you come in, our history and you being able to take it in a certain direction that I was unable to do. And then when we started talking in general about what was going to be this, that, and the other, and I started being told that there were specific rules that were going to just apply to me, that's when I stepped away. That's when I decided to take my media off site. I have been known to produce more media than anyone in the league, especially over the past calendar year. I have produced more media than any other, probably 2 individuals combined. So with that type of disrespect shown to me, that's why I left last year. And I'm still trying to talk to Drew Burness, who runs, and I will give them a shout out. They are doing media. They have, they have the LG channel over there. They have the they even do shows for other leagues as well. They're working towards something for them, and I can't fault them. I mean, they're still producing stuff for us. They're not charging anything for us. They're doing it anyways. And if they're able to benefit from it, my view is go ahead, benefit from it. Like, it's still accessible to us. If they get some sort of benefit out of it for themselves, then that's good for them. In terms of, and I was just busting on Powder because it was mentioned and, it was brought up in a couple threads. But that's the thing is, my view of the whole war is, it's not a war if I'm not on the opposite side from F5 Penguin, first off.
That's true.
And secondly,
that's true.
I think that while they might not be on the media team, that going forward there should be that let's try not to overlap each other, because all it does is force people to choose. If they can listen to a show before and after, and on Sundays Powder goes first and they go second, and then on Thursdays they go first and Powder goes second, whatever it may be, it just benefits the league more anyways.
Two thoughts on that, and then we'll let you guys kind of fill in, and then we'll kind of wrap up. One, my end vision is to make an LG channel that is live all the time, that has on-demand stuff like YouTube, all of our games, everything all in one centralized area. And I'm already working on this. Last year, a lot of people got mad at me I didn't put media out, but I was working my butt off, and Sev and Powder can both speak on this, talking with you guys, talking with Tris, everyone on future planning for Xbox One, because that's where it's going and we have to prepare for that. So I spent 15 to 20 hours a week just doing that. There's no time to do shows for me. And I was sitting there talking to Powder for hours a night, trying to get his stuff set up. But the end goal is to have a live channel where, 8 o'clock is the Snapshot, and at 9 o'clock is the penalty box. That kind of thing is what I want to do. And that's why I want to centralize all the media, is bring everyone together on one platform so we can accomplish that goal. And to that other end, my show that I do weekly, and then that I travel and go do other things for, recently for IBM, drop that name, pick it up. I could take my shows that I did on Snapshot from the VHL. I could have done them through my network, and I could have made a heck of a lot of money from it. But I chose not to, because that's wrong. It's not my product that I'm using as a platform to benefit myself. I'm using someone else's product, and I'm not including them in the success. And that's wrong completely. So that's my halt against that type of effort, because I have an established platform. Yet here I am, seven years ago, I built this established platform that I'm finally getting to a point where I'm liking where we're going and I can do this. And here I am creating one here and building a new platform here for someone else, for the betterment of the league. I'm setting up the league for success and putting myself behind that success, not ahead of it. That's my final thought. Any final thoughts from you guys on our first episode of the Snapshot here at LeagueGaming.com on the official League Gaming YouTube channel?
Well, I just want to give one more shout out to LeBon, who lost both games while having a 95%
nice job,
save percentage
LeBon.
today.
Good job, buddy.
Way to lose both of them, LeBron. Live up to that 7 million already. And just basically a shout out to the Flyers and Oshie. And well, we might not be winning many games. We are working towards it. And PHJ's having a career season, so it's just not showing up in the win column for him.
Powder?
Yeah, the whole media thing, I'm doing this as a hobby. I love it. I'm going to end it at that. I just like to be part of this league and the organization of doing something productive. As far as this show, it's been awesome. If I could say anything to anybody that's not watching, and then you can tell your friends, but this is a place where honestly, even if you're in the CHL, you can learn a little bit more about this league. So when you are up at that next level, you know what's going on. You're not just all clueless and not knowing what's happening. And eventually, as the season progresses, we're going to have obviously talk about the games that have actually happened. So we'll start talking about the cream that's been rising to the top, and hopefully bring this more into hockey. And we're not always talking about all the scandalous stuff that goes on. But it's for real though. It's a bit cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
It's an online league. There's always scandal.
There's always scandal. But then, we do talk some hockey stuff. We'll talk about team successes. I think, Sev, that we're bringing back the 3 stars and 3 scratches. I can't wait. I can't wait. If you haven't learned about that stuff, guys, you need to go check out the old episodes. It's fantastic. Just search for CHL Snapshot. We are the first result on Google and Bing. We're not going to take too much time. This is the end of the show. If you stick around for 5 or 10 minutes, we will have the last shot just after the break here, where we will talk about some random questions and stuff you think. I saw some things go through the Twitter, and that's what we'll do. So on behalf of the staff, I'm F5 Penguin, the media director at LG.
I'm 709.
And you know me, Powder P.
And we'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, Mondays, 10 p.m., LeagueGaming.com's YouTube channel. See you then.
I was about to do the cricket noise, damn.
Do the cricket noise. Do it.
Last shot here on LeagueGaming.com, the official LeagueGaming.com YouTube channel. You were just listening to episode 1 of the Snapshot. Can we have some decorum here? I'm F5 Penguin alongside hashtag Rogue Media. That needs to change. Hashtag that write-up guy, because you're coming back like that, buddy.
Where's my white name? Where's my white name? Where's my access?
At Tristan. 709, and of course CHL media liaison Powder P and Powder. Let me just make sure I put this on record. I know I said it on your show, but thank you for everything you're doing. I know Sev can say the same thing. I really appreciate everything you've been doing down the CHL. I think it's awesome. I love the power rankings. I love the media. I love the content, and keep it going, man.
No, I'm loving it, man. It's been cool because I get people hitting me up, not just to ask me to play sixes anymore. Now they're asking me my expert opinion on who's going to win what. And in all reality, I'm just reading the same stuff you guys can read on the site. I just have different opinions because I think differently.
That's it. So let's talk a little bit. This is the last shot of the Snapshot, where we'll talk about some questions, answers, things like that. LeagueGaming.com chat box, the threads over on the official YouTube channel in the chat box over there, or of course use Twitter at LG Snapshot. So the first question I want to talk about real quick. is LeBon asking me,
Where's Eric?
Where's Eric? Yeah, where is he? Signed online like halfway through the show, but I didn't bring him on because I'm not doing that. I don't roll that way. Let me ask LeBon, or let me answer LeBon's question. He said, "Do you line your throat with Vaseline so it flows so fine?" Let me actually speak some truth on that. 7 years ago, if you go back and listen to my shows on iTunes, again, I've not mentioned my show name once. Just find it. You will hear that my voice is about an octave lower than it is now. And that is because, truth be told, there is a cyst on my vocal cords that prevents me from reaching those voice tones anymore. So, my voice has gotten higher as I've gotten older, which is some sort of Benjamin Button thing. And if I talk too much, it actually starts to bleed. It's a fun fact. So there you go. A little bit about F5 Penguin. Throat issues for a guy that does radio for a living. I'm like Casey Kasem. Rest in peace. I don't know. It's frustrating, but this is what I do. So if I do more than like 3 hours a night, I'm done. So I try to limit my shows to 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, how did the 45 minutes go tonight?
We went on for 1:12.
That's that's minus a host.
Yeah, minus host. And not hitting every topic.
Not hitting every topic. That's what we do, though. But, if we had a 3-panel thing, we would have done a quick hit topics instead. But we let it, I kind of let it stretch out, right? I was supposed to moderate, but we had ideas and we shared. And I don't mind running long for our first show, as long as we now have a direction to kind of take it. So it's kind of cool. But, yeah, so there we go. That's right. A little bit about.
I'm going to add in one of our favorite guests here and see if he actually picks up.
Oh, you're going to bring him in?
I'm going to bring him in.
Why not? He was more excited about doing this show than I was.
And Eric was all excited about the show and no-showed.
No-showed. So we should bring him in.
We are offering
for the last
I'm offering a 2,500 puck reward in Hut for information on where Eric was tonight.
That's funny.
Did anyone out into the call?
I thought I saw a notification earlier that he was in here, but I don't know if that was just you chatting and his name popped up. I don't even know.
So, is there any other questions? I mean, there's still some people watching live stream, and
we got some questions over on Twitter. Powder P, somebody wants to know, at Mad Dog Comics 85 wants to know, where do you see the Vancouver Giants in the future overall?
Yeah, well, I've been getting questions throughout the whole show, and while you guys were soapboxing it, I took to the Twitter and kind of hit up some of the listeners just on the CHL topics. That way we could kind of get a little bit, little conversation going. But right now, the Vancouver Giants are in a really, really dark place, and if I could give their GM Hobo Year Pooch. That's a weird one, but I essentially would tell him some drastic changes need to happen, or it's not gonna pan out. The more games you just let go by with taking losses and all that kind of stuff, the less your guys are gonna want to play, and forfeits will be inevitable.
There you go. Next question for you, Powder P. Where will the Rebels finish in their division, and who is their biggest division threat? That from N_Mart35.
Yeah, I did reply to that one already on Twitter. However, I went with I think the Red Deer Rebels can salvage what they made, screwed up in bidding by the $9 million Breck Easy bid. Another shout out for that guy. He's the player who shall not be named ever again by me. However, Medicine Hat's obviously still there. I mean, once we get 2-3 more weeks under our belt, we'll know if they're really going to separate their talent from all that good stuff.
There you go. Sev, question for you. On the Pond Media, when's that coming back? Is it coming back?
I don't know. It depends how certain things go in the future here that both me and F5 have to talk about. So there was definitely a huge fallout, as we hit up on the show, between Brody and myself well before the merger, and then Brody and myself again after the merger, and probably sometime this season we'll have another follow. Who knows? But as well as Tris, and there was a lot of things that went on behind the scenes that I'm not going to get into. there was a lot of work I did here before the merger, and there was just some disrespect shown, and I wasn't going to put in the time and effort for the site but I still wanted to do media, so I took my stuff off site. And trust me, I got harassed from Eric and F5 every day last year. Probably at least 3 to 4 times a day I would get a message from one of them.
I got a question about OTPN.
Okay.
How was it just you, or did you have other staff?
That was just me. I did all the work myself.
He was writing
You put in
constantly.
so much work, and I couldn't. I was trying to work last year with just doing one show and some power rankings.
Nah, man.
And now I'm sitting here like, this guy is writing on a constant basis. Every night I had something new to read. So I mean, I appreciate it. However, I couldn't fathom how much work you were actually doing.
Sev would get so mad at me when I didn't do that last NHL bidding show because he didn't have content to write, and he was just going to write about how I didn't do a show.
I did just read about how
You did. I know.
I had a few things to say, but it was more the fact that, and it wasn't the me versus S5 thing last season.
No,
it was the fact of that there was a bunch of things that were promised to the league, and when you're in that media director role as I was, you have to. Yeah, when you promise to do X, Y, or Z, and I have a huge truck driving by my house right now. If you couldn't hear,
I heard it. Yeah. It's good. Good truck.
That. When you promise that there's going to be content, you got to follow through. That's my biggest thing. And there wasn't a CHL bidding show last year, and there was this year, and I gave credit to Powder for that. But there was all these things that were supposed to happen that didn't come through. And F5 can tell you, if I was on that media team and no one else was there, I would have been the first person getting up, even if I had nothing prepared, and just going with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be like, put me on air and take me off air in an hour. I'll figure out something to talk about.
Yeah. I agree. At least we clear the air. It wasn't anything that I did or you did that caused it. It was just, above things out of my control, It's
things out of either of our control.
Because you're here. Because you're with me again, buddy. We're doing this thing.
Well, yeah, there's still demands that have to be
Are you bringing up some demands? Is that what you're doing?
Oh, you already know my demands. I want my white name. I want my white name, which I deserve.
No, I'm more making a reference to some other demands that have been put out there.
Yeah, I also agree that LeBron should be stricken from the league. $7 million for a goal is just not okay.
I'm sorry, I'm typing up our forum post here.
So, I mean, I think that's what we got. We hope that most of you guys can join us again next week.
Yep.
We'll hopefully have a third host. If not, we'll be looking for a host. Maybe we'll have LeBron join us.
Oh, Eric better show up, man.
I already checked Craigslist.
not selling his body down in the Cape. Yeah, interesting fact. Me and Eric played high school sports against each other. Didn't know that until recently.
Small world, right?
Well, we're both from Mass, Southeast Mass.
Yeah.
Where exactly? I got to ask.
I grew up outside Attleboro. And Eric's from down the Cape.
I'm from Brockton, so right next to it.
Oh, you're from Brockton. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, you better watch out. I do heroin. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding.
Well, you might be the only person in Brockton that doesn't.
If you liked any of what you heard on the show and you think these are good ideas, please make a big stink about them to not us, to your management, your owners, the PA, the site owner. Do whatever you need to. Make a big stink. If you think these ideas are cool, let's get some action happening. We've already affected change a couple of ways last season. Only good things are in our future as long as we do not accept complacency. Complacency breeds mediocrity, and my friends, I am not a mediocre person, only in the NHL. Powda, Sev, it was fun. This is good. I can't wait for next Monday. Tuesday. Next Tuesday. Monday? Tuesday? What day is today?
Today is Tuesday for another half hour.
Next Tuesday, 10 p.m. Did I put that in the preview or did I put Mondays?
Who knows with you?
I gotta look now. Hold on. Tuesdays. I put Tuesdays in the preview. We're fine. I got this. I know what I'm doing. Thank you. Anyway, I am F5 Penguin.
I'm Sev09.
This is where Powder P says who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know me, Powder P. Sorry.
Yeah, you know
you
me.
ran to get the drink. No,
Thanks.
he's no Rob Chainsaw running away for like 9 pee breaks in overtime.
Oh my god, what a ridiculous thing. We didn't take our pee break because Eric didn't show up. I get it now. He was leaving to go pee. I understand. Anyway, we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Peace and chicken grease.